Hi, Linus. Hey, Rosie. Hey, Greta. Hey, come here. Jules. Hi, Jules. First order of business is always to say good morning to the farm, otherwise it will get pissed and not leave me alone. Obviously, second order of business is always to get to 1 cup of coffee. Maybe 2. Alright, let's do it. So, the Lamborghini Countach front view. We did the rear view, you guys liked it, so I thought, why not complete the car and make the front view as well? I can feel the pressure on me right now because this is such a legendary car that no matter what we do to it, it's still going to be a Countach, and the original is still going to be way cooler than any other version you can come up with this car. But let's give it a shot, let's see what we come up with, and let's modernize this beast. I just want to go through some of the ideas that I want to do with this car. So first of all, we have a bunch of 80s and some parts 70s styling that needs to go. Small details such as these side indicators right there. One thing that I really love about the Countach is the side mirrors. They look so funny on this car. I can't believe that they put it on a Countach. It's like an afterthought. I don't know what car they came from originally, but they have these rubbery things right here. So you can go and like tilt them whatever way you want, I guess. I doubt that these are electric, but I could be wrong. It could be wrong. Those are 2 details that we're going to change. We are obviously going to change the entire front of this Countach. What I want to do is I want to create some angles towards the logo. Lines that kind of point towards the middle of the car. And the reason for that is, in modern Lamborghinis, we have a pointy nose like this. This is what modern Lamborghinis usually look like. It goes down to a point like that. But if you look at the Countach, it's very, very straight. It's like a rectangle in the front. And I want to keep that because that's part of that's one of these big design features from the 80s that if you lose that, it's not going to look like a modernized version. Then it's going to look like a completely new car. So I want to keep that rectangular front end, but still have some modern touches with the pointiness, and we do that by playing around with the graphics, if that makes sense. So we're gonna have the headlights kind of pointing towards in some way pointing towards the emblem in the middle there, and this big surface right here, we can use that to create some angle that goes like this. Another one that points towards the center section of the front of the car. And all of these lines in the end is going to grab your attention, even though you might not notice it, and point it towards the front, the tip of the car. That's another change that we're going to do. And then we have this 80s beautiful styling down here. This needs to go as well. So I'm going to redesign the whole side of the car, create an air intake down here. I'm not sure how we're going to design it yet, but we'll figure that out as we go. And you see this front wheel here? It sits so far in there. It sits like inside of the car. So I want to bring that out to be flush with the body of the car, and that's one of these changes that definitely going to bump up the modernization of this car. Same thing with these air intakes right here. I want to remove this grid here and redesign these air intakes and have them have some black mesh in there or something like that. But of course the big changes are going to happen in the front of the car. That's where the focus on for this video. The headlights are going to be inspired by a mix of Veneno, Huracan, Aventador, all of these new cars, and also the Y shape with the LEDs. I want to implement that somehow, but make it in a new way. So that's what we're going to do in this video. It's going to be a challenge because it's a Countach. It's not easy to redesign a Countach. It's a masterpiece as it is. With that said, let's jump in. With that said, let's jump in and let's see how it's going to turn out. Now, before we get into the sketching part, just make sure you hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. That way you get notified when new videos are uploaded every single week. So here we go, once again inside of my favorite software, which of course is Photoshop. It's a very Miami Vice style looking image. It's super clean. And it's probably the highest resolution image that I ever worked in one of these redesigns, which is great because it gives me a lot of detail. I can zoom in without it getting blurry and messy. So if I want to add a bunch of details to this redesign, I could do that thanks to the high res. Now I want to keep the simple geometries of the Countach. The Countach is really not a very complex shape. What makes it complex is, if you look at the earliest Countach, it's pretty much one piece that's chiseled out of some material. It just looks like a spearhead. But what makes it complex is all the details that were added on later on, such as the wing, the big air intakes, these side skirts that looks very Testarossa, and all of these details just makes it look like it is a complicated design, when in fact it's a really simple one. So I want to emphasize the simpleness of the Countach and kind of keep a similar front view to, or a front bumper to what I did with the Aventador redesign. And the reason for that is that it's a typical Lamborghini front bumper. It kind of reminds me of a Gallardo, and the Gallardo style is more similar to a Countach than an Aventador, for example. When we came into the Reventon was the start of this complex surfacing that Lamborghini is using today. And then we have the Sesto Elemento, which is on a completely different level. And of course, the Terzo Millennio takes that to an even higher level. So we're gonna bring it back just a little bit and take it easy on the styling. Keep the funky wings and air intakes while still focusing on the simplicity of design. Playing around with these headlights, and as I mentioned in the brief, I wanted to have a bunch of lines heading toward, or pointing towards the center of the hood, towards the Lamborghini emblem in the center of the hood. I think that looks good. It gives it this aggressive pointiness without having a pointy bumper, or the nose doesn't have to be pointy. We can always play around with the graphics, and that's what makes graphic design and car design so useful, is that you don't need to have a bunch of complex shape to get a point across. You can use small graphical elements that will do the same job without ruining the fundamentals of the car design. You had to just redesign these side mirrors. I kind of wanted to keep them, but I know how the comment section would look like. It would be all about forgetting the side mirrors, so I had to change them, make them. Style of the side mirrors is kind of similar to the Gallardo, where they have they almost point. It's almost like an arrow pointing forward if you look at it from a side view, and I think that suits this redesign. It's a mix of a Gallardo and a Countach, I would say, with some graphical elements from newer models, such as the Aventador. And the headlights have some inspiration from the Veneno, for example. The idea with the headlights here is, since this is such a wide car, I wanted to emphasize that, especially at night. So I love when exotic cars, you can tell, if you've ever been driving at night and you see the headlights coming on the opposite side of you, and they're very low and they're very wide, you know that it's an exotic. I think one car that does this very well and that fools me every single time I see it is the C7 Corvette. Every time I see it, I think it's an exotic because of the position of the headlights. They're so low and they're so wide that it fools me every time. I think it's a Ferrari or something like that. But then when it comes closer, I can see that it's a Corvette and I feel ashamed of myself. And my wife always tells me, wow, I can't believe you were wrong once again on this. But that's an important point. I want to emphasize the width of the car by using some graphics. And there we go, that's the redesign of the Lamborghini Countach. I'm gonna show you the front and rear view side by side or on top of each other right here, so you can see the full redesign of this car. If you want to go back and check the first video, you can do that. It will probably make a lot more sense if you watch that video first. As always, thank you so much for spending a few minutes with me today. I really appreciate it. If you like this video, hit the like button. And if you like these kind of redesigns and want to contribute to the suggestions of redesigns, please make sure you subscribe. Thanks again. I hope you have a fantastic day. I will see you in the next video. Take care.